Members of Parliament, Prime Minister, Ministers, welcome to this historical event at the Stortinget, the Norwegian Parliament. I would also like to extend a special welcome to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Ukraine. Only twice since World War II have we allowed distinguished guests from abroad to address the plenary. One of them was Winston Churchill in 1948. Today, it's a great honor for me to introduce the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyj. President Zelenskyj, a very warm welcome to the Stortinget, the Norwegian Parliament. Mr. President, this chamber is the very heart of the Norwegian democracy. We are now at a defining moment in European history, where the core principles of democracy are once again being threatened by brutality of tyranny. Almost 5 weeks have now passed since Russia's brutal invasion of your country. Norway has condemned the invasion of the war in the strongest possible terms. The war had led our country to take unprecedented action together with other allies and partners in support and solidarity of Ukraine, including arms delivery. Mr. President, our hearts are bleeding for the many Ukrainian victims, both civilians and soldiers. At the same time, we are deeply impressed by the courage of the Ukrainian people in their resistance in action of attack on your motherland, and in your own heroic fight for the very principles of democratic civilization, for freedom, liberty, and international law. Your leadership, Mr. President, inspires us. We are honored to have you with us today, and we feel your presence. So let me welcome you by saying the floor is yours, President Zelenskyj.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, members of the government, members of the Parliament, the nation of Norway. For me, it's a big honor to address you on behalf of the Ukrainian people. Today is the 35th day of the all-out invasion of Russia on the territory of Ukraine. After 8 years of war in the east of our country, in the Donbass, Russian forces invaded from 3 directions, from the north, from the east and the south, and they attacked us on the soil, in the air and from the sea. Russian missiles and air bombs are hitting our cities and civilian infrastructure on the daily basis, every night. For the Russian forces, there are no prohibited targets. They attack everything, starting from hospitals to airports, starting from food warehouses to housing blocks, and the losses are colossal. Dozens of thousands of houses destroyed, dozens of thousands of villages and municipalities destroyed, millions of people left without shelter. The convoys, armored convoys of Russian forces are not reducing, although we destroyed thousands of them. Russia is losing more of its armored vehicles than in any other war. The solidity of Russian army in their behavior needs special attention, because this is the biggest threat since the Second World War. Ukrainian ports in the Black and the Azov Sea are blocked by Russia since the day one of the invasion. About hundreds of vessels cannot enter the Mediterranean. Some of the vessels were simply taken over. This is the freebooting for the sake of stealing the cargo. Some of the vessels were attacked by fire. But this was not by chance. They have also mined the sea, and now the sea mines are drifting in the water, and this is the danger for any vessel, for any port, for any country in the Black Sea region. One of such mines was very timely caught near Bosphorus, another one near Bulgaria, another one near Romania, and we don't even want to imagine if some of these mines will not be identified in the timely manner, who will suffer then? Probably the ferries or big passenger cruise boats or tankers, the explosion of which can lead not only to the human casualties, but big environmental disaster. And then Russia, as usually, will say that allegedly that was not them who are to blame and who have done it, as they did many times when they were killing the critics of the Russian authorities, or when they shot down the Boeing plane over the Donbass. The war now is not limited only to our borders. No other country since the Second World War and the Nazi aggression in the sea have been such a threat to the marine and seafaring. Just think how the regions where there's potential aggressor countries and potential conflicts, how they look at this. They are waiting. They're waiting whether Russia will be sufficiently punished for her activities in such an aggressive, for her aggressive behavior. And if not, this will be repeated in other regions as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the Norwegian people, we do not have common borders with you, but we have a common neighbor which stands against all our common values. For the Russian state, as it is now, the freedom of people, or freedom of human human rights doesn't mean anything. They neglect universally acknowledged human rights. Not only do not they have the safety for the minorities, they can be killed, and they are being killed. And I'm sure that you know about that. You know that they don't have the law, and putting and destroying democracies is their multi-year policy. The war of Russia against Ukraine is just the follow-up of their attempt to destroy the foundations of Europe. And this aggression is targeting not just our borders, but beyond. And I think that you are experiencing new risks on your border with Russia. In the Arctic region, they have accumulated such a big army force that cannot be explained by any common sense. Against who and why are they doing this? The future of Europe and the whole continent, from north to south, from west to east, is decided now. And in the Ukrainian soil, in the Ukrainian air, in the Ukrainian sea. For your soldiers not to have to protect the countries of the eastern flank, for Russian mines not to be drifting towards your ports and fjords, for your people not to have to get used to the air attack alarm, and for Russian tanks not to be accumulated on your border, we have to stand together in our attempt to stop the aggression of Russian Federation. I'm grateful to your government and all of your society for the tangible assistance that has already been provided in terms of armament. In the first place, you have made historic steps by providing us with what we need in our fight for freedom and against the tyranny. But the war is going on. Russia is deploying new forces on our terrain to try to continue destroying us, destroying Ukrainians. We have to do more to stop this war, and first and outmost is weapons. The freedom should be armed, not worse than the tyranny. And I will be very specific. In your chamber, believe me, here right now, we are losing specific people, specific cities. So I want to name specifically what we need. We need anti-ship missiles, Harpoon. We have anti-air defense systems, NASAMS, also anti-armored vehicles systems, ultra old scope of this. The weapon that you can help us with will be used only to defend our freedom and your freedom, only for the protection of the freedom and security that you are enjoying together with other European nations. Secondly, the sanctions, the only means of urging Russia to look for peace are sanctions. And I'm sure that the country that is awarding Nobel Prize on the annual basis understands more than any other country what peace means and how much do we need it, how valuable is every attempt that brings peace. This is why the sanction packages should be introduced on the weekly basis without pauses. The stronger the sanctions packages are going to be, the faster we will bring back the peace. I'm grateful to Norway for joining the sanctions of the European Union, but I want to ask you to do another important thing. It's important for you, for European companies not to be helping this war machine, which has already destroyed and killed thousands of our people and destroyed dozens of cities. No krone, no single krone, no single euro in taxes to, for example, your company Motorsack, and other companies have to stop supporting Russian capability of destroying the neighbors. How can you provide them the ship equipment when they're using their navy to mine the seas and destroy any seafaring capability? The European Union, and I do hope also Norway, have to introduce the ban for Russian vessels to use European ports for the time being while they are blocking our ports. They should not have the right of using the ports of the free world. It's not about money, it's about freedom and safety of marine and seafaring in the world. And the third item is you are the most reliable suppliers of energy resources around the world. The trust for Norway has always been as big as possible, and this is drastically different from how Russia behaves as they supply their energy resources. You can make a decisive contribution to the energy security of Europe by providing the necessary resources both for the countries of the European Union and for Ukraine. We already started the dialogue on the supply of about 5 billion cubic meters of gas for the next heating season. Now, I do hope that this will become the basis for our long-term cooperation in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Norway, our common way is that we always meet in the history, in the times that are not easy but decisive for Europe. Like 1,000 years ago, when Norwegian Vikings were our guests in Kiev and they participated in the establishment of the first Kievan state, the lands of Rus and Ukraine was called in the Norwegian sagas, Gardarika, and this is where the fortresses that our and your forefathers used to share. Now the bombs are flying into this terrain, into the territory where Elizaveta Yaroslavna, the wife of Harold III, the mother of the Olaf, the grandmother of Magnus III and great-grandfather of Eystein I and Sigurd. These are the pages of our common history, the history of the Kievan Rus. This history was created here on this land together with our people, and nowadays we're jointly defending it. This also happened 77 years ago, when Ukrainians were with other nations of anti-Hitler coalition liberated Europe from the Nazi occupiers. The first soldier who entered in the liberated Hirkenes in October 1944 was Ukrainian national from the city of Sumy, by the name of Kompanets. Now in his motherland, in Sumy Oblast, they have heated battles going on with Russia. Ukrainians were coming together to push back this aggression, to protect our state and our way of living, the democratic and free way of living, with the protection of rights and freedoms for everyone. The price is terrible for us. We know about 145 kids that died, and this is just official statistics. In the occupied territories, we cannot identify all the casualties. It is quite probable that we have lost hundreds of kids, just kids. And after this war, we will have not to just restore our land physically, rebuild our cities, demine our lands and our seas. We will have to do the rehabilitation of people, both civilians and the soldiers, to treat them after the wounds and what they have gone through. I know that your country has a vast experience in rehabilitation, and this is something that you could help us with as well. And I would like to invite you to join our project of restoration of Ukraine. The tremendous losses that we have incurred means that the amount of investments needed will be huge. And as one of the most important responsible investor, Norway can do a lot to bring back the stability in the east of Europe. And then I'm sure we'll be able to borrow one of your beautiful traditions, a tradition that characterizes you as peace-loving people, as the society which is built on the principles of goodness. On the day of the Constitution, on the annual basis, you organize the parade of school children. The children from all parts of Norway take part in this parade, and this year, together with your children, you will have also Ukrainian children marching. Our Ukrainian children who arrived to seek shelter in Norway. And I do hope that very soon, when we will be able to restore peace in Ukraine, and this will happen indeed, I will have an opportunity to invite you, together with the children, to participate in such a parade during one of our holidays in Kyiv, to celebrate our common freedom, our common right for the happy future for our children in the peaceful times in Ukraine, in Europe. Because if the rock clashes away from Europe, Europe becomes smaller. So we have to make sure that such a strong rock as Ukraine would always be together with Europe, and only together with Europe. Thank you. Thank you, Norway. Slava Ukraini.
Mr. President, on behalf of the Norwegian Parliament and the Norwegian people, let me thank you warmly for addressing us. We stand with the people of Ukraine. Your struggle is our struggle. Please keep fighting for freedom, for svoboda. Thank you.